welcome ghosts and ghouls of the night. We are Kapow, where we find tales and treats from the underworld and drive big wooden stakes through their hearts. I am your host for this evening, Sonya.
And I'm Al, the humble servant of the Dark Lord, Sonya. Yes, I lost the coin toss again.
You gotta learn, man.
It will come up tails sooner or later.
If it isn't obvious already, we have chosen some twisted tales and kooky treats to look at in honor of Halloween.
Yes, indeed we have. So to curdle your blood and shiver your giblets, we have got Riven. We've also got Whispers in the Walls. Also, I'll be speaking with Sorab Del Rio, who has got quite a popular series with zombie cities.
Zombies.
Zombie cities. Cities of zombies.
Stop it. Ray will be along later with some very creepy but cool collectibles to take a look at too.
Indeed, but first, let's have a look at Hack Slash.
That's not scary at all.
Boo.
Now, we couldn't do a Halloween episode without taking a look at one of my favourite genres, the slasher killer.
Of course.
From Michael Myers to Jason Voorhees to Freddy Krueger, there's just something brilliant about a big guy with a mask roaming around, slashing up co-eds from here to there.
Okay, well, I can't disagree. I mean, technically, Freddy Krueger didn't have a mask.
And he wasn't that big.
Horrific burns, but I do still take your point. They are very, very cool. Now, it's interesting with slasher films, they went from being quite scary back in the old days, sort of the original Halloween, Friday the 13th, through to now they're actually a combination of scary and hilarious.
Scalarious, and sometimes just plain hilarious.
It's true, yeah.
But I mean, with something that has such a strong archetype and obvious characters, you can kind of have a bit of fun with them and play around, and that's exactly what Hack Slash has done.
Yes, now in pretty much every slasher film, there's always a lone survivor, you know? It's usually a girl,
Plucky young girl.
may or may not be a virgin.
Doesn't matter.
We're not going to judge.
No.
In Hack Slash, this survivor is called Cassie Hack.
Now, what do you do once you've survived a slasher? I mean, really. Cassie decides to roam the countryside with her gigantic friend, Vlad, who is awesome.
He's great, yeah.
And hunt slasher killers and take them down.
Yeah.
Usually twice.
Yeah, no, you've got to do it twice. That's pretty much a rule.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great setup for a lot of, tongue-in-cheek gags and genre twists.
Yes.
So, I mean, in Volume 1, First Cut, we get 3 separate stories with 3 different slashers. And I think Tim Seeley, the writer and creator of the series, he does a great job of keeping it inventive and keeping it fresh with every different killer.
He really does. I mean, each one of these stories basically is the basis of a really good B-grade slasher
Absolutely.
film. I'd watch them.
Yeah.
They'd be awesome. But I think my favourite one is the first story, Euthanized,
Ah, yeah.
where the slasher has at his command an army of zombie animals.
Okay. So why is it that you cannot handle zombie people,
Zombies.
but you're completely fine with a little zombie kitten?
Well, like, even with an ear missing and a bit of brain sticking out, it's still kind of cute.
I've said this before. You are a strange person, but I do have to agree. I think it's one of my favourites as well as the first one, largely because of Stefano Caselli's artwork in that one. Really like that, but I also really like the storyline as well.
Yeah, and the second and the third arc, the art's done by Federica Manfredi, but I think the artwork works just as nicely. I like them all.
Oh, look, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just I really like the detail in Caselli's work.
It's much more naturalistic than the others.
It is, and I think that worked in this. I mean, when you're booting, slicing, and shooting a multitude of undead creatures through the air in any given frame, I think you need that level of detail.
You do. But I think in the art in each arc kind of matches in with the type of story that it is. Especially in the second one, you've got these really bright pastels, and it's set in spring break, which incidentally is the best place for a slasher story to be set. Wall-to-wall substance abuse and promiscuous co-eds. Come on! It's enough for anyone to get their stab on.
Okay, you're a little bit creepy, but
Slashes again.
I know, it does work well. I thought that was the funniest of the 3 as well.
There's a goat.
Yeah, there is a goat. Vlad brings home a goat. There's a few moments in there that gave me a nice little chuckle. I think overall, the third arc was probably the weakest. For me, that was because it got a little too self-referential. I mean, it takes place at a comic convention, and it even features real-life comic creators like Steve Niles and Robert Kirkman showing up on the casualty list. It didn't quite land for me.
True, No, but I think the slasher in the third one was the only one that actually gave me the heebie-jeebies. Like, I actually went, yeah, when it showed up. It's quite creepy.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, I've loved all of them. I think they're so much fun. My only disappointment is that I didn't get into this earlier. I mean, Hack Slash has been around since 2004.
Okay, yeah.
On the upside, I now have so much reading to be done.
Yes, you
so
do.
many slashes to catch up on.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. This is definitely a buy from me.
Okay, well look, yeah, I'm going to say a buy as well.
Yep.
I think any fans of the slasher genre should definitely get into this one. They're definitely going to enjoy it. You know, it's massively violent. It's just chock full of action, and it is so darkly funny that you will fire chocolate milk out of your nose, even if you're not drinking any at the time.
What? God, you think I'm the strange one?
Yes. Yes, I do. Okay, now, Sonya, you may want to hide behind the desk for this next section.
You said no zombies.
I know, but look, don't worry too much. We actually shot this one a while ago at the Heroes and Villains Expo, so you don't have to freak out too much.
Okay.
Zombie Cities is a series that's been quite popular lately, and I had a chance to talk to its creator, Sorab Del Rio. Okay, now we're talking with Sorab Del Rio, one of the creators of Zombie Cities. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on board the show.
Yeah, no, it's really great to, I know we've been back and forthing for a while, so it's great to finally get to talk to you.
Pleasure.
Now, as I say, you're one of the creators of Zombie Cities. Now, how did you get into comics in the first place? What was your journey in?
My first comic was about 20 years ago. It was called Scunge NYPD. I wrote it when I was about 5 years old. It's a collector's item right now, so you're going to find that one. But at work, I work for the Bradford Exchange, and I'm one of the product developers for the Phantom.
Okay.
So I work in Phantom memorabilia. So last year, I also decided to do Zorro.
Yeah.
So I licensed Zorro, and I became the first Aussie writer to write stories for Zorro, which were
very cool.
officially done.
Yeah.
And I injected a lot of drugs, sex, and zombies into Zorro.
Cool.
And then I decided last year to branch into a create-our-own project, which is Zombie Cities. Yeah. So that's how I got into it.
Okay, so obviously zombies are a bit of a thing that you're very much into from your body of work.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Zombie Cities and the basis of that.
Well, zombies, I've kind of got bored of the zombie genre, to be honest with you. So the stuff that I like is Zombieland and Shaun of the Dead. That's the sort of humor. So Zombieland is very much like that. It's a collection of horror, comedy, offbeat, madcap action stories about zombies. It's zombie outbreaks all over the world, from Sydney, London, New York, Rio de Janeiro, Tokyo, and just biting political, satirical stories.
Okay. That's
Lots of action though.
It's an interesting angle to take on it, just sort of an almost more sort of what are the things, the knock-on effects that would actually happen in this sort of situation.
When I set it out to do it, I didn't want to do a traditional zombie one. I really wanted to reinvent the genre, so really take it, flip it around, and this is a very different perspective on the zombie genre.
Awesome. Well, I've had a bit of a look. It's very, very cool. It's
Great.
Got a lot of cool stuff in there.
Yeah.
And where can people get a hold of it at the moment?
Well, you can get it from Kings Comics, one of our sponsors.
Yes.
Yep. Arcadia Unbound, Anime at Abbotsford, Clayton's Comics, Cosmic Comics. Gosh, I better get them all in. Not Beyond Comics. There's a lot more, there's a few more, but and certainly online at silverfoxcomics.com.au.
So it's obviously you're getting them out there. Are you getting a good response to this one?
We're getting a
Seems
very
like
good response. Sydney Supernova we sold out. We did about 130 copies in 14 hours there. We're at Penrith today. Thanks very much, Penrith, for having us here, and we're having a good response here as well. Yeah.
Awesome.
But I think people are really enjoying the fact that we're playing around with the genre and having fun.
No, it's always a good thing to do, sort of taking a slightly different direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, look, it's definitely something everybody should be looking out for. Zombie Cities, very cool graphic. And look, once again, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on the show. Great. Thanks a lot.
Now, I think the first werewolf story I ever read was Stephen King's Cycle of the Wolf, which was an illustrated novella that focuses around a single year in this small town where a werewolf terrorizes the townsfolk each full moon. Loved it, and I've been hooked on werewolves ever since. There's just something about that transformation, that anybody could be the monster, the mystery of it. That's just made werewolves pretty much my favourite monster.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm a bit of a fan of the old wolf creature myself, but for me it was films. I can't remember whether it was The Howling or possibly American Werewolf in London that I watched first, but it kind of set me on my path to watch every werewolf film I could possibly get my hands on. Getting very close to the end.
You getting close?
I'm getting very close. So it was really nice to find a good werewolf story to add to our Halloween special.
Yes, indeed. Now we have Riven, written by Bo Hampton with art by Robert Tinnell, and in many ways, it's a classic werewolf story.
It certainly is, and that's its strength and also I think its
Yeah?
weakness.
How do you mean?
Okay, let's take our lead character, Katie. She's a young woman with a mysterious past and going through a change. She's having visions of terrifying wolf attacks. She's getting stronger and more endurance. She's suffering from bouts of overt sexuality, which she then can't remember. All of that is pretty much par for the course for a werewolf transformation.
Okay. I know what you're saying. We have seen this sort of thing before.
We
but,
have.
I mean, at least the setup is kind of original. You know, she's in a coma for 5 years and comes out of it a fully grown woman.
Yep.
So, you know, those sort of that stunted sexuality and those sporadically accelerating sexuality does make sense in that kind of context. That said, I did spend most of this book waiting for the next werewolf bit to kick off.
Yeah, well, the werewolf bits in this are so good. The violence is brutal enough without it going too far and, you know, stringing intestines all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, there is that one bit where he turns that guy into a Pez dispenser. That went pretty
Nasty.
far. But it was, yeah, you're right. It didn't go too far, I think.
No.
But look, that worked. I think there was this kind of twisted, sadistic sense of humor to the werewolf. I mean, there was clearly a mind at work here. It wasn't just a brainless beast.
Yep.
And you got this real feeling of a predator just playing with his prey.
And I think they were the segments where the art really popped in this as well. It was fun and playful and dynamic. And there's a whole segment on a boat, which I kind of read it and then went, no, I have to go back and check that out again because it's so well done in that. And then you go back to the sections with Katie and her family and the artwork is still really good, but it doesn't have that same dynamicness as the werewolf. It kind of puts me in mind of those early creature feature styles. It's good, but it's not really kind of there.
Yeah, and in terms of the time spent with those characters, especially with Katie, I found her a bit insipid.
I did like the best friend more, I found.
Oh yeah, I mean she's classic best friend material for these sort of things, right down to the glasses. But with Katie, I don't know, her whole adolescence getting crammed into a couple of months thing got a bit tired, and I just started to find her irritating.
I do think that Hampton could have pushed this story a little bit faster. I mean, you get to the final act where Katie goes back to Romania because she's actually been adopted by American parents, and you just feel like there's just so much exposition that's shoved into this tiny little section at the end. I wish that had been spread out a bit more.
I think they could have gotten to that point halfway through.
Absolutely.
You know, I think that would have been great. Instead of just the last 2 chapters of a 6-chapter story, put it in halfway through, spread that exposition out. I think that would have really helped the pace.
I agree. I mean, overall, Riven, it's a pretty good werewolf story. You know, I finished it and went, yeah, that was good. But I didn't want to go back and reread it. It's doing nothing kind of new or genre defining. It does have a nice ending to it and it's got a few good reveals, which I won't reveal.
No.
Ultimately, it's a borrow from me. It was good, but you know, I'm not going to read it again.
Yeah, look, I think if they had spent more time on the wolf stuff and less on Katie's awakening, I probably would have given this one a buy because when it's on, it's
on.
really on. But in the end, I'm going to give this one a borrow.
Yeah.
It is a fun read, but I don't know, it took too long to get to the point.
Yeah.
I'm really excited that we're doing this special.
Are you, Ray? What, are you a particular horror fan?
Well, no, I have my favorite things, but I'm not a fanatic.
Right.
But I'm actually really excited because I got to discover a new collectible.
Always cool.
Yep, the Living Dead Dolls. This is by Mezco. Now, when I first started researching them, I thought, yeah, someone might be into these, there might be a few about, but no, they are hugely popular and they're widely sought after as well. Basically a little bit of a background story. Mezco was started in 2000 by Michael Markowitz, or Mez, but it was originally conceptualized by both Ed Long and Damien Glonick. Now these guys are huge horror fans and they used to hand make these items and sell them at small festivals. That then grew more and more popular. They kept selling out. They moved on to cons, and eventually, Mez was at one of these cons, and he took one home and thought this was an awesome idea, and yeah, the rest is
There you
history.
are.
So they're up to series 24 at the moment. Usually there's 5 in a series. They try to release 2 series per year. There is exclusives in between that as well, and they do, some sort of specials, like they had the 7 Deadly Sins, which was pretty cool models. Yeah, that's the Living Dead dolls as well. However,
awesome.
they are sold exclusively on eBay to the highest bidder. Now, I checked out their work, and it's still being sold at around $1,000. So
Wow.
that's pretty huge. Yeah.
For a little doll.
Yeah, for a little doll. But look, there is an entry point for everyone though, because you can get a single doll from between $20 and $40, and yeah, that's the Living Dead dolls. They're great. They come in these little coffin-shaped boxes. Personally, it's not really for me. I was actually going to write them off completely, but looking at the detail of them and how much work and the concept of each one, I'm gonna have to give it a borrow. I'm really interested too to see if anyone out there is actually collecting them.
Absolutely. Look, I gotta be honest, dolls creep me out. Like this kind of doll really creeps me out. Their eyes follow you. But there is a lot of detail to them. I also like that they do Living Dead Dolls Presents.
Yes.
Which are based on characters or real people from kind of gothic art, film, literature, and special kind of ones.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
They're very cool.
They're a bit creepy, but they're all creepy. Let's be honest here. They're going to be a borrow from me as well. They've got really beautiful detail to them, but I couldn't live with one of them looking at me like that all the
One
time.
or a whole bunch
Or
of
a
them?
whole bunch of them. But they are
An
pretty cool.
army of Living
Living
Dead
Dead
dolls. Yeah, that's the Living Dead dolls. So before we talk about Lego Monster Fighters, we thought we'd give you a few little fun facts about Lego that you may or may not know. So, Ole Kirk Christensen was a Danish carpenter who nearly went bankrupt during a depression. But he stayed alive and maintained an income, basically through making small wooden toys. 2 years later, through sheer hard work and increased popularity, he opened a company called Lego, which is made up of the Danish words leg and got, meaning play well.
Incidentally, it also means I put together in Latin.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Now in 1947, Lego decided to release a copy of Kiddie Crafts brick. Now this design is now what we commonly know as Lego today. Now, did you know that 19 billion bricks are made each year and only 18 per million are considered defective?
That's ridiculous.
It's amazing quality
That
control.
is amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah.
But also, 7 Lego sets are sold every second around the world.
Wow.
That is a lot of Lego getting sucked up by vacuum cleaners.
21, 28.
Don't try to add it together.
Okay.
It's
all
a
right.
lot.
All right. Now, on to the Monster Fighters. Now, this theme was released in May 2012, so this year. There are currently 10 sets under this theme. 7 of those come with moonstones, or at least 1 moonstone. Now, the idea is that, well, the backstory, these monsters are there to collect these moonstones, put them all together, and unleash doom upon the Earth. But all is not lost, because Dr. Rodney Rathbone has put together a band of heroes, or monster fighters, to thwart the evil Lord Vampire from eclipsing the sun and unleashing doom upon the Earth.
Excellent.
Now, the greatest thing is that about Lego is that there's an entry point for everyone, and I think that's always been a selling point about Lego. We have here the 7 titles that come with those moonstones. We could start as small as the swamp thing here. Each of the Monster Fighters sets come with a vehicle and a monster and a fighter, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
So you can move all the way through this range and get to something as huge and amazing as the Monster Fighters castle.
That's
Now,
awesome.
this collection here that you see was kindly given to us by Anime at Abbotsford. We decided to open up something that's mid-range. It's the Vampire Hearse. What you have is this cool, detailed hot rod hearse, and it also comes with 3 figures, also a second vehicle, the motorbike, which is quite cool. And what I really like about it is it also comes with the 2 of the main characters from the opposing sides. So yeah, you don't have to get the larger set to get the main characters. Yeah, but yeah, what do you think, Sonya?
They're pretty cool, and weirdly enough, I like the zombie driver.
He is very
I'm
cool.
not afraid of zombie Lego. That's fine. I think they're really amazingly detailed pieces. They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that they're kind of classic monsters, like you've got your little Wolfman and your Swamp Thing and Frankenstein's monster and mummies, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
Lego seems to be expanding and kind of creating different worlds, so
Yeah.
pretty much anyone can get into Lego for any kind of hobby. I think they're fantastic. I mean, it's Lego. I'm a big fan of Lego. I think they're awesome. It's a buy from me.
All right. Well, I'm not that much of a fan of this particular theme. As you said, there is a lot of themes out
There
there.
is.
Yeah, something for everyone, and I think that's the great thing about Lego. So for me, not this one, not the superhero Lego either. I'm more of a space fan. So the Star Wars Lego, for instance, is something that I really like. You know, I'm more of a fan of the minifigures themselves, though, even over the pieces and the buildings. So, you know, unfortunately, sometimes you have to buy a whole set to get a particular kind of figure.
True.
Yeah. So with this, I'm gonna have to give it a berry. Yeah, not for me.
Burying Lego. I mean,
Yep.
granted, every child has done that, but like, I mean, you can build the set and then break it down and build something else.
I know, but that's just not in my skill set, unfortunately. Yeah. Some people can build stuff. Some people
Look
can't.
at stuff.
Yeah. But I was hoping to show you something from my own collection.
Really?
Yep. I was hoping to do a bit of a show and tell with everyone.
Okay,
so,
cool.
yeah. Shall we hit the lights? Oh, it's a clapper, right?
Is it?
Is it a clapper?
Okay, ready?
So, can anyone guess who this is?
I know.
Who?
It's Isaac Clarke from Dead Space.
You are a winner!
What, do I win?
The lights. The lights. You can get to put them back on.
Okay.
So this is a sideshow collectible. It features our hero, Isaac Clarke, from the computer game Dead Space. He stands 16 inches tall. It's made of polystone resin. It's an amazingly detailed figure. It's actually an exclusive edition as well. It does have the light feature that you can switch on and off, but the exclusive edition here comes with a switch out hand. This is the plasma cutter from the game. And you can also add this figure feature here, which is the Ripper for alternate display.
Amazing.
I love the figure. He's standing over this carved up necromorph. I mean, who can tell? He might still be alive and coming back for a second serve.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Sonya?
He is pretty amazing, I gotta say. Look, I haven't seen a lot of sideshow figures,
Yep.
but they obviously put in a lot of work and detail if
Yeah.
this guy is any kind of example. I love the base, gory as it is. There is so much detail in there, even down to the little blood spatters and it's gruesome, but
It is.
it's awesome. It's a buy. It's a gruesome buy from me.
Yeah, funnily, I think I'm gonna give it the same.
The same, considering how you already have.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ray, for showing
No worries.
your Isaac.
It's gonna be a rabbit, but a rabbit's just not scary
They're
enough,
not
is
scary.
it? No.
There's something about Spanish writers. They have a unique way of merging gothic horror and amazing fantasy in new and unexpected ways. And when you combine that kind of story with a visual storyteller of the same caliber, you have something very special in your hands. Whispers in the Walls by David Munoz is just such a book.
Yeah, look, I got to agree with you. I honestly didn't know what to expect going into this one. I mean, I knew it was a humanoids publication, so I kind of assumed it was going to be creepy, but that was about it. And I opened the front page, and there's this amazing example of Tirso's artwork. It just has Sarah, the protagonist, standing there, this little girl with bright red hair and a red coat just staring into the darkness. And there's this gnarled old tree just stretching out over her in this threatening way. Amazing. And I was in from that point.
I know, it's so amazing. And that one initial page tells you so much about this story.
And what a story it is.
Yeah.
1949, Czechoslovakia. Sarah wakes up in an infirmary after her whole family is killed by a monster. She finds out that there are other children in the infirmary as well who have also been attacked by monsters, and that any of them could turn into monsters at any point.
That alone is an awesome premise for a story.
Yeah,
In
it
my
is.
mind, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, Sarah starts being contacted telepathically by this unseen voice. And then you start to realize that there is a lot more to this story than you first thought.
Yeah.
Sarah is stuck in this battle between good and evil that has raged on through the ages. And she now has to pick her side.
Yeah, but I think the genius of this is when you realize that good and evil probably not the right terms to use.
No.
like any war, there is an ocean of moral ambiguity at play here, and everybody has their own agenda. I don't think there's a single character who doesn't lie at least once.
No.
And that keeps both the protagonists and the reader guessing.
Absolutely. I mean, not just that main battle, but then you've got this power struggle between the monsters themselves, between the vampires and the werewolves and the minotaurs and monsters. I don't even know what they are.
Chapper thingies.
But they all create this amazingly detailed and rich backdrop to the main story. But you never feel overwhelmed by the amount of information or monsters.
Yeah, I think that's because the characters are so well realised,
Yeah.
honestly. They have these textured and believable personalities that really make you create an emotional contact
I
there.
certainly did with all of them.
I mean, like or loathe any of these characters, you will care about.
And the amount of twists and turns that happen in this book with the overarching conspiracy, you're probably going to feel both emotions about every single character.
Except for Sarah. You can't help but love Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, this adorable little cute as a button little girl with a signature red coat, she's just, at the start of the story, you just love her because she's just so cute and
Gorgeous.
just with the curls. But as she kind of progresses through the story, you realize how strong and resolute she actually is, and you just love her even more.
Yeah, but you're right though, you love it instinctively, and I think the visual cues in this story are just spot on throughout.
Everything is spot on in this story. There is not a single thing that I dislike about Whispers in the Walls. The story, fantastic. The art, amazing. Javier Montes, who did the colours, just created this beautiful, rich and varied palette that just added another layer to this story. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so I'm pretty confident saying you're gonna give this a buy.
Oh, buy definite. Monster size buy from Sonya.
Okay, well look.
Love it.
Again, I do really agree with you on this one. There's honestly not really anything I can criticize on this, and you know I hate that. I love to criticize. So I couldn't find anything in this one. I enjoyed every page, from the cover right through to there's a selection of concept art by different artists at the end. I enjoyed everything in
I
it.
want to rip them out and put them on the wall.
Yeah, I wish there was something above buy that I
Yeah.
could give this one. It's a bye-bye, bye-bye-bye, bye-etty bye.
Bye-etty bye.
It's bye-etty bye.
Gonna be a thing?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a thing.
Well, I think we have successfully scared ourselves silly this week.
Yes, I think so too. I think it's about time to just curl up under a blanket with a hot chocolate, maybe watch some Red Dwarf or something. You know?
That sounds good to
Just
me.
chill out a bit.
Yeah, we will be back next week. We'll be having a look at Australian comic Blue and the revamped series Ghost from Dark Horse.
Yeah.
Actually, hot chocolate sounds really good. Manservant, hot chocolate! Oh.
Turn it back on. You broke it.
Oh.
George!